Mayor Stanley, welcome back to the program here. Let's talk about the priorities for 2025 that's now upon us here. Two biggest priorities, what are they for you?
I would say that infrastructure and public safety have been our two top priorities since we got elected. So I sit on a really strong team. This council works really diligently and really hard. And so what you've seen us prioritize is we've got to be putting those monies first and foremost into public safety. If you don't live in a safe city, you don't live in a town or a city that anybody wants to be a part of. And so public safety is very important. Following on the heels of that is infrastructure and making sure that we are providing those core services and that we're keeping that, I would say, in front of all those shiny things that you can get caught up in trying to do for your community. So those two have been our largest and will continue to be in 25.
Mayor, how do you weigh property taxes on top of that? Because you have to have taxes to pay for these things, but nobody wants to see their taxes go up.
So we went through in some budgetary refinement, let's say, where what we did was we took the general voter approved tax rate, which is a small percentage of like 3%, and we just figure we're on a fixed income. This is our budget. We're not bringing anything to the voting populace and asking them to pay more. We are taking that authority of being able to manage those monies and prioritize that within the budget. So what we saw was a need to invest in our local heroes. So that's our first responders, and really for us, retention and hiring was diminishing at roughly 10% annually. We've put $10,000 for each individual sworn officer in both police and fire as a pay increase here in this last budget. And we've seen a 20% increase now in retention. So as an example, we normally have 75 candidates that apply for our academy, and this last academy had over 200.
Wow. And to make sure I'm clear, I should know the answer to this question, but have property taxes gone up to pay for any of these things?
So the property taxes really, the tax rate has come down because the property values have gone up so much.
Sure.
And we realized roughly $4 million in additional increase over this last budget. But I run a budget of $500 million.
Yeah.
And so myself and council have a large budget. So that's a small amount. So the way that we were able to go in and pull from, I would say, just excess that we had within our budget was pretty astonishing. We worked very hard. Our first budget session was 7 days solid. Our second budget session was 4.5 days. And so we did a really good job of pushing on those budget concerns and making sure that where we were asking for employees, that we were functioning. So for example, we may have been awarded a 5-star rating in a department and we were running 10 positions short, and we still performed at a very high capacity. So those 10 positions we pulled and reallocated.
Mayor, the legislature is about to return to Austin for the next legislative session. What's on your wish list for lawmakers to accomplish?
We have quite a few things that we're excited about down at the state ledge. Local control, local matters most, with the balance of those needed state guidelines is really what we're looking for. We want to make sure that our state does a good job to empower the citizens and create that accountability from those mayors, councils, judges, and elected officials to their constituents. And that's everything.
Yeah, but they haven't done that. The Republican majority hasn't done that for the last few sessions. They've been going after local control.
They have been, and I think you're fixing to see that some of that local control that they were pushing into really isn't taking power away from those local elected officials. It's going to preserve those rights of those citizens. So I, for one, in like private property rights, believe that some of their moves and some of the movement that they've made down at the state has been good to ensure that private property rights are held in esteem. And I think you'll continue to see that, but it is a little bit of a pendulum effect, and I think we're going to see it swing back to the middle.
Anything else you're looking for lawmakers to get done?
What I love down there is we have some strong leaders. Paxton is one that I would speak to. Holding big pharma accountable. One thing that I've pushed for that I would love to see is true informed consent. And so getting back to a medical community where we can begin to rebuild confidence and trust in that medical community through simple common sense practices like true informed consent. You're seeing Paxton lead the way on that. I think we'll have some other legislatures, senators, congressmen that will push for that. And so that's one thing that we greatly need here at the local level is clarity in how we look out for individuals in a public health capacity.
Mayor, last time we had you on the program here, we were talking about the effort to stop people from traveling through the streets and roads of Amarillo on their way to New Mexico for an abortion. That issue went to voters. Voters rejected the travel ban. The first city in the state to do so, I believe. Do you expect this issue, though, to resurface?
Yes, I do. It really hasn't gone away. And so I see it on both sides. And so we as council, to restate where we were working towards public enforcement and enforcement of state guidelines and state laws that are already on the books. And at the local level, we have a small jurisdiction that we need to meet right there. What you saw council do its job in taking this and allowing it to go to the ballot. So right. We negotiated, we tried to amend some of the things that, the drive-through provision and the roadway restrictions just were not enforceable. They potentially aren't constitutional. They're not legal within my jurisdictional bounds.
Do you think this will come back up, though, and go back to council or before voters?
I definitely see that there's still work left to be done. So I don't think as a pro-life mayor, you should say that, the state's done everything that it ever needs to do and that local doesn't need to do anything. Where we got off was we had a group of petitioners that said, well, you have to do all of these things or else we won't take any of it. And because they were not willing to amend it, it went to the voting public and it did fail, but it failed on two measures. One was an extraterritorial jurisdictional reach, and that was, considered governmental overreach. And two, interstate commerce and interstate travel and the private right of action trying to regulate some of those things that you really need to be publicly enforcing. And so I myself and this council, I think, still have an appetite to try to take those measures that we were taking prior to having this removed from our ability.
There's been a lot of talk about President Trump's mass deportation plan, and I've been reading some stories up there in the Panhandle about the impact that might have on farms and farmers who rely on migrant workers up there. What kind of impact do you think this will have?
In our community, we have a strong Hispanic population, and we rely very heavily on some of those hardworking Mexican families and individuals, and that's a good thing. And so most of them are here legally, and so the illegal immigration that we've seen across the border and everything that has just been an all-out assault on our freedom at the border through the Biden administration, we have to correct that. And so whether you're talking about deportation or other measures that he's going to bring in, it will have an overall positive impact on our community. But it'll have some pain, it'll have some fear involved in it as well. So I think separating and rightly dividing legal immigration and legal work visas from illegal immigration, that's everything from Middle Eastern countries coming up, through the Darien Gap all the way here. When you're watching individuals walk across the border with flip-flops and a grocery bag, and they look pretty warm and well fed, they didn't really migrate several thousand miles like that. It's been an orchestrated attack to infiltrate our southern border. And so with that, we've made a lot of strides just with getting Trump in office, but the work still remains from everything from the border wall to potential deportation. And so I don't see the negative in it other than it's going to be a lot of work and it will take a while. But we will ultimately be better for it.
Do you think it will impact farms at all and these farmers who rely on migrant labor? Will it even touch them, do you think?
You can't speak in absolutes, but you would speak in percentages. And so great percentage of our community around here is agrarian. So we are farm and ranch and we are agriculture. And so we love our Hispanic population and they live and work here and it won't affect them in a negative way. You're predominantly talking about other ethnicities and other countries that have migrated across the border that they're not contributing to the workforce that we rely on. So I would say that most of the impact that we're going to feel won't be in our farm and ranch and our ag. What you're going to see is the impact in those larger cities, I believe.
Mayor Stanley, always good to talk to you. I appreciate the time, sir.
Thank you, sir. Always good to be on with you.